Hypocrites and Strippers by Kim Yaged, Episode 3. Some of you are probably thinking, maybe we should get more women running the clubs, then things would be more equitable. But that's like celebrating, yay, now women can oppress and exploit people too. And don't any of you oversensitive bar owners come getting up in my pants with, that's not how it works in my bar. We're speaking in generalizations. And in general, you're a bunch of low-life, insecure scumbags with small dicks who compensate for your inadequacies by surrounding yourselves with a bevy of attractive women who in the real world would never give you the light of day. But in your narcissistic domain, if they shun your advances, they'll be fired, cut off, with nowhere else to go. And the next strip club around is 4 towns over. And who knows if her car can make it there. She'd buy a new one, but she doesn't have enough cash saved up to pay for it outright. And she can't get a loan because she has no proof of income. And even if she could get a car, she can't commute 4 towns over because she's got 3 kids at home. And who's going to watch them when she adds that extra 2 hours to her commute, even if she could afford the childcare? At the end of the day, it's a miracle strippers make any money at all. But they do. Depending on the city, their proclivities, their moral sensibilities, they have the potential to make lots of it. So why will you so frequently see a stripper rushing into work on the last day of the month, stressed out because rent's due? If it's so hard to make cash in the first place, why are they giving it all away? Perhaps it's Pavlovian from being in the bar so much. Who am I supposed to tip out next? Or perhaps it's something more. Perhaps it's what I call stripper disease. No matter how much they make, strippers are constantly spending more than they have. You may call this phenomenon being American, but when it comes to the stripper, it's something more. For them, it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, fuck the Joneses, especially Mr. Jones who keeps pressuring you to go out with him every time he comes into the bar. I know this whole goddess empowerment, find your inner stripper bullshit is in vogue these days, but most strippers know there's something innately wrong with selling their bodies in order to take home the kind of cash they make in one night. Even if they're not making $500 every night, $400 seems like a lot too. Hell, if you only bank $250, that's still $1,000 a week if you work 4 shifts. And with the potential right there, if you're short on cash, you can always just pull another shift. That's why they got into the business in the first place. Mom and Dad stopped paying the tuition bill when she didn't major in accounting. The hubby left her with no child support. How else are you supposed to pay off those hospital bills? So she tells herself, I'll just do it until I've saved up some cash. But with all this perceived accessibility, as fast as they make it, they're throwing it away. It's as though the money's contaminated, contagious, and they want to get rid of it before they catch anything. When you're dating a stripper, at first, this is totally cool. It's like winning the lottery. Twice. Not only have you bagged a babe, but she's rich and she can't stop spending the money. On you. You never stop to think she's got nothing in the bank until you stop to think, she's got nothing in the bank. Literally. Because she can't deposit that kind of cash. So, the money sits in the house just screaming to be spent. Thus, the cycle begins. A job that could have her banking 50, 75, 100 grand a year becomes an albatross that puts her 10, 15, 20 grand in the hole. Because as much as she enjoys the lifestyle, she dreads going to work. She can keep telling herself she just likes being on stage. But in the back of her head drones the reality. How else am I going to make a living? She may soak up the public adulation, but privately, she abhors herself. And pretty soon she's calling in sick. Her cat died. It's her parents' anniversary. This would be a great weekend to do some lunar mapping. Any excuse not to go to work. To be fair, there are the random workaholic strippers who manage to save up to buy a new car, a house, or pay their way through college. But even after finishing that steno course, landing a teaching job, writing her thesis in atomistic modeling of biomolecular polarity, she's still going to end up back in the strip club, even if it's just to supplement her income. Because let's face it, it's hard to make ends meet. As for me, I never dated an overachiever stripper. My existence went something like this. Hey baby, it's me. My stomach's a little upset. I don't think I'm going into work tonight. So if you feel like giving me a call. At first, I thought all this calling in sick was the makings of puppy love. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. So I convinced myself, who doesn't take a few mental health days every now and then? When she told me, I have no idea what's gotten into me. I never miss this much work. I believed her. She was the hottest girl in the bar, the chick everyone wanted to go home with. You'd look at her and think, hell, I'd be a lesbian too. And she was with me. So what did I have to complain about? See, in the beginning, she made me feel so She swept me off my feet. And you have to understand something. I never thought of myself as sweepable. So this was big. And it was that good. It was that hot. As are the first 6 months of most relationships. But then reality set in. The woman I used to refer to as my little magic became slightly less magical. Instead of giving each other flowers, we started giving each other shit. And that worked for a little while because the makeup sex was fantastic. But then she fell upon a tactic usually reserved for the heterosexual male species. Withholding. It comes on subtly at first. It's late. You're cuddling, and you fall asleep in one another's arms. The next morning, you wake up fully clothed, still clutching each other, and you think, that was sweet. But then it happens again the next night, and all of a sudden, it doesn't seem so sweet anymore. Slowly but surely, what used to be foreplay evolves into the entire experience. Then, even the foreplay parading as intimacy stops. And that's when the yelling really begins because, I don't know about you, but it's much easier to ignore the dirty dishes and the bad attitude when you're at least getting a little. I know. It sounds like a relationship so full of promise. Where could we possibly have gone wrong? The truth? We were fine until Elizabeth decided to quit dancing. First, she accused me, of being a Svengali. All right, she didn't actually use the word Svengali, but you get my point. She likened me to the dreaded Nick and Johnny C of Flashdance notoriety and all the other perverted, twisted men who plunder the depths of the female stripper's psyche in order to get laid by some hot chick. Who was she kidding? I was no Svengali. Svengalis want improvement, change. I wanted her to say the same. She started talking about things like our future, wanting a career. My girl was determined to stay out of the bars, which truly was our downfall. When things got tough, she'd turn on me. I quit stripping for you! And I'd counter, I never asked you to! Not the answer she wanted to hear. Sometime later, perhaps during one of those moments of clarity that comes from some good contemplation and 3 or 4 martinis, I finally figured it out. When she said she'd quit stripping for me, she meant she couldn't be a stripper. Couldn't do the things she needed to do to excel as a stripper while she was dating me. While she was trying to build a future with me. So, although this is hard right now, I'm doing it for us. I love you. I need you. And I want this to work out. Okay, the reality is she didn't have quite that vocabulary. And I didn't have the decoder ring to help decipher what she meant by, my life sucks and it's all your fault. By the time I figured it out, it was too late. She had aimed one stiletto too many at my head, and I was about to go out and buy a pair of my own to start launching back. And so it was that I found myself en route to Los Angeles with all the worldly possessions that could fit in the hatchback of my rusted-out Nissan. I was leaving my past behind. Broken promises behind. The world of stripping behind. I mean, I never even wanted to step foot in another strip club in my life. I was driving boldly, independently into my promising future. My stripper-free future. Or was I?